Yeah, the parties in the book. So is this something that I'm sure throughout history, people of upper classes, they threw these extravaganzas, even if like they didn't necessarily have the means, but it's to
Oh,
show
yes.
that you were this or that. And actually, I remember learning about like Louis the 14th, and
Yeah.
he basically made like luxury into power,
Yep.
where in order to sit on his court or to like come to his parties, you had to get like this type of dress made by Louis the 14th's tailor. So you'd be paying the state to come to the state's party. And it was just like a brilliant way to have power.
Wow. I
Uh,
didn't know that. That's super interesting.
yeah, he was a smart dude, but that's a common thing, right? To throw these
Mhm.
parties and then to set up these courting experiences and like, hey, you
Yeah.
should talk to lady blah 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 over there. Her
And and
daughter
the, and the
is
thing is, at parties, that thing is pretty humorous. You couldn't just go up and introduce yourself. You had to have a common acquaintance to introduce you. So if you just walked into a party and knew
Mhm.
absolutely no one, you couldn't talk to anyone without it being considered rude, which I think is hilarious. So I mean, you would need to go with someone to a party who had connections who could introduce you, because just talking to someone was considered rude, which I
Mhm.
think it's pretty funny. But in that time period, it seemed to be very sensory. The idea of opulence and luxury was very experience based. So, for example, in I think London, there was the Vauxhall Pleasure Gardens, and it was a public place where people could go and pay, and there would be fireworks. They'd have vendors, lots of dancing, lots of music. It'd be a very opulent place to be. And I mean, that was just something that people did. Like people put a lot of emphasis on the idea of experience and of luxury. And so I think a lot of parties reflect that as well. I mean, it's kind of peacocking. People wanted to show their
Yeah.
wealth. They wanted to entertain because that secures place in society.
Yeah, and
If you
reputation,
invite,
right?
yeah, because let's say you wanted to secure a dinner invitation at the Duke's house. If you threw this big party and invited the family, perhaps that would help you make the right connections to rise in society, because there again, your station was everything. So it all kind of connects there.
So it was like to move up, it wasn't based on your actual like merits or talents. It was like navigating social interactions.
Really, I mean, I would say so. You would need some kind of status. You would need some kind of money, some connections to at least get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
But you wanted people to like having you around. I mean, at least in some of my research, there, especially in older pieces of literature, they'd be the character who would come from decent family, but who would be a gentleman, wouldn't need to really work for a living,
Mhm.
and would travel around with people of higher title because they liked having him around, and that's how he earned his status. So I think throwing parties, if you showed that you were good company, if people, then I think that would help you secure invitations to dinner parties. So the idea of being well thought really came into
Wow.
came into play. Uh, I think it'd be fun to live in Regency time for about 2 weeks, and then I think I'd probably get fed up with it.
That reminds me of, so I have a number of musician friends here in the city,
Yeah.
and they all go on tour and everything, and they say that in order to be successful in the music scene,
Mhm.
you need two of three things. One is talent,
Mhm.
two is professionalness, and three is to be a good hang. So you need at least
Yeah.
two of those to make it as a musician professionally,
Yeah.
because you could be like totally fun and have a ton of talent and be like not
That's so true.
really professional and show
Yeah.
up all the time, but like he's a fun guy, he's good, like let's keep him around. But if you have all three, that's how you like kill it.
Yeah. Well, I think that applies to pretty much anything, though. I mean, you have to have
That's
some
what's so
kind of.
great about it, though, isn't
I
it?
mean,
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, you have to have some kind of skill, something. But even with writing, I think that that's so true. I mean, I by no means think that I'm a great writer, but I think it's like tenacity always beats talent. I mean, if you're good with people, if you learn the industry, if you're willing to grow, I think that leads to a lot more success than just talent.
Mhm.
I've met some writers at conferences who are incredible writers, but who have zero people skills,
Mm.
aren't nice, and I mean, publishing is such a people-based business. So I'm like, if you're not really good with people, it's gonna be very challenging. I mean, I think a lot of people think writers just sit in their house all day on their laptop, which is kind of true, but I mean, it's kind of true, but a lot of business comes down to, can you work well with a team? I mean, I changed so much in Dearest Josephine when working with my editorial team and working with my marketing team. And so, I mean, so it was a very collaborative project. And now I spend hours every day communicating with people online. And so having some kind of people skill, I think really helps you get further than
Yeah.
if you just had the talent. So I think that that's so true. And it definitely does apply to Regency. I mean, if you were fun to have around, then
Hey, you're
probably
fun to
get to
have
go to
around.
all, you get to have, get to go to all the parties.